Hey guys, I am here doing this video on jealousy. I think that that's one of the top things that people reach out to us to talk about and want to know, did we have jealousy problems? How do we overcome them? Is there still jealousy now? I am the perfect person to do this video because I'm really the only one that experienced jealousy within the relationship, and I think that this could be a good video for people that are mono and poly, because I did have jealousy before we had, added someone else into our relationship. But I think we need to clarify a couple things. So there's jealousy, and that's the feeling or showing envy of someone or their achievements and advantages. Feeling or showing suspicion of someone's unfaithfulness in a relationship, and fiercely protective or vigilant of one's rights or possessions. So you have that for jealousy. But what you're feeling, is it jealousy or is it being territorial? Being territorial, that would be a person who guards or defends the areas they consider to belong to them, is territorial. I think I experienced a little bit of both in the beginning. And for some time, it didn't just go away within 6 months. I think that now whenever I look back on it, I definitely had more jealousy than being territorial. Me and Joey were together for many years. I think we were together for like 10 years by the time that, Jamie came into our relationship. So I'm sure that in the beginning, feeling that, this is my husband, he doesn't belong to me. Nobody belongs to anyone. I'm sorry. My cats. But let me just touch base on kind of things that I went through. In the beginning, I set my boundaries. And Joey and Jamie really didn't have many. They handled things a lot easier than I did. Anyways, Joey and Jamie handled things a lot smoother than I did. And let me go back a little bit further on that. On the video that we initially did with Barcroft, and I did come out and say, how I did have jealousy problems. And everybody just was in an uproar about it and was like, well, you're the one who brought her into the relationship, and they were okay with it, but you weren't. Okay. Jamie and I started after months of showing feelings to one another. And I was always open about that with Joey. And I was always talking to him about it, for someone to talk to that I knew wasn't going to judge me. And whereas whenever they came out and was like, hey, over the last couple of months, we've really been, having these feelings for one another, I didn't have that whole time to process that Joey had to process whenever Jamie and I became, in a relationship. So there's that explanation. However, I did set boundaries. I honestly can't remember all of them necessarily. It was just things that I wanted them to do or not to do when I was there or I was not there present, for my own personal feelings. They did work fairly well. I did have to do some compromising, and that's just something that you're going to have to figure out in your own relationship. Is that something that's going to make or break the relationship? If it's something you're struggling with, then you definitely need to talk to your partner or partners and just explain to them, like, when this happens, I feel this way. Because maybe all it is you just need to voice your reasons for feeling a certain type of way, and they may be able to assure you that what you're feeling is literally just your own inner demons, I guess you would say. That's something that took me a long time to overcome. Dita! Quit! realizing that a lot of it being in my head, and just coming to the fact of knowing that because you think it doesn't necessarily mean that that's true, or what's going on, or what would go on. So I reached out to a couple of other women that had the same position that I was in my relationship, whereas I was in the founding, mono relationship, and we were married. I found, I believe, 2 girls, and I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'm in this situation, how long have you guys been together? Have you ever been jealous? Have you ever felt this way or that way? Could we stay in touch so that I have someone that I can talk to work these things out? And that was a really good resource to have. I also listened to Poly Weekly, the podcast, and a lot of it didn't necessarily relate to my relationship or what I was going through, but there's a lot of good points on there. There's a lot of good positive things that other people have brought to that podcast that you can definitely use in conjunction with other resources. Another thing that really helped me was I would try and communicate as much as I could, and if I felt like there was boundaries that I was uncomfortable with, I wouldn't use the verbiage never. I would try and say, for now, can we do this? Or for now, can you refrain from this? So that at least lets your partner hey, I'm open to this. Just for now, this is what I'm comfortable with. Communication is definitely key. You have to communicate. Sometimes I still struggle with this, my partners say. Not necessarily with boundaries or jealousy, nothing like that. But communication, no matter how hard it is, you've got to talk it out. Another thing that I believe I learned from that podcast was if you take your problems, say for example, I don't want my husband and our girlfriend to be intimate when I'm not there. That was one that I struggled with. So you take that problem and you say, I don't want them to be intimate whenever I'm not there because, and then you just kind of start narrowing it down. I don't want them to do that because I don't want to feel like they're trying to do that without me and leave me out. Okay, well, why do you, if that was the case, then, okay, what do you think is going to come of that? Well, if they are doing that without me, then that must mean that they don't love me. Okay, well, if they don't love you, what's the end game? Well, if they don't love me, then they're going to leave me. I mean, it just kind of gets down to a point where it's just kind of, I don't want to say silly, but it just doesn't make sense. Because why would they want to leave you? If you're thinking that they want to leave you, then there's got to be some other outstanding issues that is not being brought up with that instance. Me personally, the jealousy sometimes came from, Jamie's 12 years younger than me. So it's 12 years younger, she's prettier and she looks younger and, so many things. But you cannot compare yourself to others because they are not you and you are not them. And that's great because the cool thing about being polyamorous, if you're open to it and, you already have a good, stable, solid marriage or just a good, stable relationship, whether you're married or not, beforehand, and then having someone else, they kind of fill the spots that you didn't necessarily know that maybe you needed someone there for. There's things that Joey does or could do that Jamie couldn't, and vice versa. And Like, Joey and Jamie, they're like very physically affectionate people. I'm not a big cuddler. I get hot easy, you know. So, like, they can fill that role for one another. So we all have our different roles that we can fill for one another, and just be happy like that you are fulfilling so many roles and fulfilling your spouse or significant other, you know, because of the things that you provide and that you give. And everybody in your relationship does that, and you're able to get your whole happiness. And if you're not, then you've got to communicate. Definitely talk it out. And sadly, the one thing that I think people hate to hear from me whenever they talk to me about jealousy and how did I overcome it, one of the major, absolute major things, like, communication is huge, but something that you literally have no control over is time. As we continued on in our relationship, it definitely got a lot easier by doing the things that I've recommended in this video that I did, but it literally took time, because you want to make sure if they do those things, they're not going to leave you. You know, if they do those things, they don't love you any less. You know, I find happiness in seeing my two partners happy together. They don't, just because they're happy doesn't mean that they're less happy with me. And after time goes by, you start to realize that, because you have to remember, you know, it's not like those two have any reason to be against you. I mean, well, in my case, I was the one that brought them together. However, something that we've all given has brought each other together and has given each other happiness. So you have to just take it as it is and just be thankful for your partners, and make sure that they can, you know, commit to communicating with you. And if they don't want to talk about things, then you really need to reevaluate your situation. Just my personal opinion. Another one that people like to point out is, do you have children? Do you have more than one child? If so, do you love one of your children more than you love the other one? They're both your children. It's kind of the same aspect. I have two spouses, and I don't love one of them more than the other. I'm sure in the beginning it may have seemed like, you know, me and Jamie were like super crazy about each other, because I kind of saw it with Joey and Jamie whenever they started their relationship. But it's new romance. It's, you know, honeymoon stage, as you will. And everybody goes through it. Those people, they do not love you any less. So just as a quick overview before I end the video, I hope I've been able to touch on everything. Definitely find your resources. You can go out there on groups on Facebook. There's polyamory support groups. There's just polyamorous groups. Poly Weekly podcast. Look on Facebook. Look on Instagram. Look up different triads. Or if you're in a monogamous relationship, you know, just reach out to somebody that you don't know as well. Find somebody on the internet. It's fine. Then you can tell them everything that you want to discuss, and then you don't have to worry about running into them the next time you have like a gathering with your friends or family. Like, there's literally no ill intentions from this person, because they don't know you personally. And if they judge you, then that's fine. You don't really know them, and that's okay. Communication. Definitely talk it out, you guys. So important. And time. It's gonna take some time, but it's okay. And it's okay to be jealous, or to have, you know, jealous feelings, because it is such a normal thing. I really wish you all the best of luck. I hope you can all learn and grow like I did, because I am very happy without these jealous feelings, and it is very freeing. Until next time, you guys.